And then I do start. Are we back on YouTube? Is YouTube back?
Brain starts.
Hello?
What has to be
Oh, it
learned
is.
actively through direct
There we
experience
fucking go.
is control. And interestingly, if you come from a position of privilege, you learn control.
And then
very
where's
early in
my
your
stream
life because you
settings?
have
Oh,
agency.
there it is.
Whereas if you come
See,
from a position
see,
of
chat,
having
we're
much
back.
poverty, you don't have
YouTube
control.
has let
So
me
you
back
do
on.
learn that
Yippee!
behavior.
My fucking
Because
god, that's
when
so
an
fucking
animal or
annoying.
person experiences that their actions
I guess
can actually change outcomes, it activates the medial prefrontal cortex. And the prefrontal cortex then inhibits the dorsal raphe nucleus. That f***ing raphe nucleus. Is it dorsal? It can itself. It overrides.
It can
the
what
default
itself?
facility. So those dogs in 1967, they didn't learn to be helpless.
Ooh, I
Their
can
brains
dual stream.
defaulted to helpless.
That's an idea.
Because they never learned control.
It's turned off though.
The dogs that jumped the partition, they previously learned through experience that their actions produced results. That learning is what gave them the ability to escape. Not instinct, not personality, learned control.
Learned control. It's about testing. It's about taking. Oh, wait. This is exactly what like Ted Kaczynski was saying is wrong with modern society. That people no longer have significant control over meaningful decisions in their life, and it's like substitute. It's what did you call it? Substitute activities. Whatever. Who knows? He was crazy anyways. He shot a bunch of people.
Genuine
Oh well.
is this. Barata, Seligman, and Mayer showed in 2023 that once the prefrontal cortex learns control, once you experience that your actions matter, it produces what they call long-term resilience. You don't just overcome helplessness in the moment, you become neurologically resistant to it in the future. So what does that mean for us? Well, it means that the feeling of nothing I do matters is not an observation about reality. It's your dorsal raphe nucleus.
Nothing is objective about reality. Okay, that's the thing.
What it evolved to do in response to overwhelming negative information. Your brain is defaulting to
Okay, can I just like cut this section out?
Massive, seemingly uncontrollable system.
To preserve this on YouTube instead of having to upload the entire
information.
video?
It isn't understanding the system better. It isn't even another
No,
video.
Awkward. Guilty as charged. I don't need to appeal.
The belief that we have control, the experience of control, action, actual, tangible actions, where you see a behavior produce an outcome. So how can we feel in control? Because in my last video, and you can see that here, there should be a link that comes up, about how your brain was literally built for a village of 150 people, that every empathy circuit, every moral instinct that's calibrated into your brain is for a group small enough where you can see everybody's faces.
I was performing transformative content.
And just shuts down. Sit down, shut up. I've seen the scale of the problem, and you are screwed, mate. It's trillions of dollars. You haven't got hope in hell of changing it. Just keep
Submit appeal
and know your place.
Let's take a look.
I'm built for a village. I've told you.
Chat, start praying right now.
There's billions out there. Right? Give up. That is a feeling, not the truth. That is a cognitive error in your brain. Because amazing.
It's crazy that I named the live stream "Life Sucks. What Can You Do?" And here I am.
Of what you
life sucking.
Your brain takes one action, one decision, one vote, one decision about where you spend your money, and it holds it up against 8 billion people or $200 billion, and it looks like nothing. But that's the brain, and that's the brain lying to you again. The same way a million deaths become a statistic. The compounding effect of your actions becomes invisible. You cannot feel exponential effects. Like a conversation that changes one person's mind, who changes 3 others, who changes 3 more.
Humans notoriously have a bad time. Why the fuck am I supposed to like constantly provide like transformative material? Like, can't the content just speak for itself? Can't you just like imply into it? I guess like I'm gonna have to fucking keep YouTube open, but like I can't keep every fucking
brain can't simulate.
web tab open at all times to track when the fuck YouTube is being like, wow, you're fucking reacting wrong. You need to do more yapping.
Isn't data. That feeling is a glitch. Let me explain. Nicholas Christakis,
there's no glitch.
James Fowler tracked over 50,000 relationships over 5,124 people in the Framingham Heart Study. It's one of the longest running health studies in history. They found that behaviors and emotions cascade through social networks to 3 degrees of separation. For example,
3 degrees of separation. So yeah, social contagion is real.
If you start cooperating, like genuinely cooperating in person with people you know, the person who receives that cooperation is more likely to cooperate with someone else, and that person cooperates with someone they know. Your act of showing up multiplies 3 times before it fades. 3 degrees of separation. Your behavior ripples outwards to people that you will have never met and will never meet.
Just having good aura
3 million people.
Affects so many people. That's so true,
each
chat.
Connected to 150 people, each connected to 150 more is 3.375 million people that you can affect. The network does the rest. And here's the compounding.
It's crazy how he tells us that massive statistics just turn everything to slop and remove the meaning. Okay.
Everyone. You just need 25%.
Understood.
And this fact is even more compelling. It doesn't even take most people to create change. In 2018, Damon Centola at the University of Pennsylvania published a study in Science. And they set up groups and paid them to agree on a social norm, like something like whether they agree with gay marriage, or something blander like what name to give a face in a photo.
So I partnered with a physicist, Andrea Baron Kelly, and he and I decided to build an online.
All right, I'm shutting off the game. We're proper reacting now.
And put them into online social networks with strangers, and basically allowed them to collectively produce.
I have to engage with my chat now.
People just interact randomly with other people. And at the beginning of this process, no one could achieve any coordination. In fact, there was dramatic failure across the networks, and it looked like this wasn't going to work at all. But then suddenly there was a radical shift in the dynamics, and the population spontaneously went from a completely disorganized state in which no one could agree with anyone to everyone using the same global convention. So what we're working on now is whether or not groups
It's called a
can control
network
the process
effect.
of norm
Yes.
formation.
Yes.
And so we think of this in
It's
terms
when,
of committed
when,
minorities.
by the way, one of the things that Palantir is very, very good at is understanding the network effect and funneling enough capital necessary to get, essentially push the boulder up the hill and get the network effect going.
If there's a large population
Such
that
that there's no
already agrees on social
alternative.
norm, how small would that minority need to be in order to overturn the norm and change the population's attitudes to a new dominant belief?
So once the whole group had agreed, he introduced small groups of committed dissenters who pushed for a different norm. When fewer than 25% of the group pushed for change, nothing happened. The status quo held. But the moment a committed minority hit 25%, the entire group flipped rapidly. The new norm took over. In fact, one trial, the difference between complete failure and total success was a single person. And then there's this razzle-dazzle fact that I absolutely love. Centola doubled and then tripled the financial incentive for people to stick with the old norm, and it didn't matter. 25% still tipped it. Money didn't work. In his own words, when a community is close to a tipping point to cause large-scale social change, there is no way the community would know this. Just below it, their efforts fail. Just above it, rapid success.
What's interesting about it is that even though the contagion dynamics spread in a complex way, which seems like it should be slower, it spread to like 2.7 million people in a week, right? So these dynamics can be really quite fast if they take hold of the network in the right way.
The way that tipping points occur is that a critical mass grows in the periphery of the network. People coordinate with each other and they spread through strong ties and wide bridges, reinforcement for a new idea. This process of coordination can't be overstated. It is the fundamental aspect of all social change processes.
Damn, the phalangists were right. The phalangists were right. It's not class war. It's coordination.
It's also how marriage equality wound up spreading from marginal communities across the U.S. to change social norms so that the vast majority of Americans now support marriage equality. Every single social change process we know of, they exhibit this classic S-shaped growth curve, where initially there's slow growth early on, then you hit the tipping point, there's rapid
That's literally my stream, by the way. We're literally like right here.
When feels small, when posting that video feels stupid, and it often does. When joining that union feels insignificant, when showing up feels pointless against the scale of what we're looking at, the problems systemically which are out there.
It only takes
Consider
a couple
the very
of
real
bricks
possibility that you actually might be the
misplaced.
Because you'll never know. You will never know. And that's the point. The person who tips a tipping point never knows they did it.
When's June 24th?
The most frustrating and the most liberating fact in this entire video, right?
Bro, that's the end of the summer.
Wait, I don't get the credit.
Oh.
I just have to keep showing up into the void and hope it works.
Yes, that's called being a hero.
Because that's the maths. Just trust the maths. In the same way you do when you get into your car, in the same way you do when you get on a plane, trust the maths.
Trust the
'Cause everything
process,
that works in
bruv.
society is maths. When you look at a kettle, it's maths that created that. Maths applied to engineering. And the maths says, if you go out there and have an effect, that effect compounds. It can change the world. And I know this sounds like the psychology of like one small person can change the world.
Content detection.
I feel like a plonker even saying it. But, one small person can change the world. It's not a slogan. It's peer-reviewed neuroscience and experimental sociology published in Science, PNAS, and the Psychological Review. The studies aren't telling you to believe you can make a difference. They're showing you mechanistically how small-scale action creates large-scale change. Fact. And they're also showing you something that the motivational poster never mentions, that feeling of smallness, the sense that nothing you can do possibly matters against a system this size, that feeling itself is a byproduct of cognitive biases that have been...
By the way, Hutch hates this guy. Not only because he's got long, luscious hair, but also because he's telling you to do the impossible, to think beyond what is realistic, to imagine an alternative,
Documented and named.
instead of being
Scope and sensitivity,
pragmatic or
helplessness
whatever.
before. The system we're up against is so big, it absolutely makes you feel helpless. But the antidote, the actions you can take, feel so pathetically small, it makes you feel like a self-help wanker. Because I know how this sounds, right? I'm a comedian sitting in front of you, citing peer-reviewed neuroscience, telling you that showing up matters and community is the antidote. Like, I'm one PowerPoint presentation away from a TEDx talk, right? You can absolutely call me a self-help wanker.
Roy!
But it won't change what Seligman published in the Psychological Review, and it won't change what Cantola published in Science. You're gonna have to take it up with them, and good luck. They're very busy shocking dogs. Hi, you've got to the answer phone.
What?
Martin Seligman.
Wait, what?
I can't come to the
Hassan
phone right now,
reference?
So I'm too busy kicking dogs in the bollocks. But if you leave your name and number, I'll get back to you shortly. That was the door. The system is enormous and it makes you feel helpless. The antidote is embarrassingly small and it makes you feel like an absolute plonker. But that gap between the scale of the problem and the scale of the solution is actually much smaller than you think. That is exactly why it's hard to see change happening. So here's how you actually override it. 2 neurological hacks. Hack 1, do something. Do something where you see the result. Your prefrontal cortex learns
Do
control.
something small, do something meaningful, like literally cleaning your room. Honestly, like literally cleaning your room, doing the dishes, making your bed, small things, picking up trash around your neighborhood, yes.
through experience, not information. That's the whole point of the Seligman revision. The dogs
act.
that could escape were the ones
Learning
that
through
previously
action
experienced
rather than
direction,
passive
producing results.
absorption.
For example, I love this research taken after Hurricane Katrina. Researchers found that positive active coping was strongly protective against PTSD symptoms.
Just
People
coping.
who actively
Just cope,
rebuilt
bro.
their communities, who had tangible tasks, who could see their actions producing outcomes, fared significantly better psychologically than those who remained passive,
externalized.
even controlling for the severity of what they'd experienced. So walk, build, write the letter, go to the meeting. The specific action matters less than the experience of agency. Your brain needs to see what you did change something. Every time it does, it rewires against helplessness, which is why the doom scroll is so harmful, because you see no change there. And it is absolutely about changing.
Well, you see a
first,
new
and that change
thing.
radiates outward. Hack 2, break the scroll. Oxytocin isn't just released through physical touch. It's released through cooperation, through trust, through working together towards a shared goal. So, join a union is not a political slogan. It's a neurochemical prescription. Physical community connection triggers oxytocin, which suppresses...
Not just a union. Join a D&D group. Join a reading, I guess, whatever. Join the Discord also. On the, it's in the YouTube. I love Twitch chat, but Twitch chat isn't going to be joining
community isn't just a
the
nice
Discord because it's not in the description.
Antidote to the Epstein economy. And that means that passive scrolling is the enemy, right? Not just because it's bad for your mood, which it is, but because it gives you dopamine without giving your prefrontal cortex any experience of control. It's outrage without agency. It's the release valve that stops you doing the thing that would actually change your brain, your life, your society. And I know I make content for social media. I'm aware of the irony. I'm literally using the thing I'm telling you damages your prefrontal cortex to tell you it damages
you're a
your
hypocrite.
prefrontal cortex. Like, I'm not saying delete
Bruh,
anything. I'm just saying there's a distinct difference between using social media to organize and using it to consume. One activates your prefrontal cortex, the other numbs it. Proven, factually. The neuroscience says that the way out of this maze is connection, action, and community. Not digital, physical, not abstract, tangible.
When did he fucking write this?
And all of this psychology is really real for me, really practically real in my own life, because I had...
Discord is run by collectivist furry pedophiles. Is that true? Who owns Discord? Is this guy a furry pedophile? Kind of looks like one, I'm not gonna lie. Uh-huh. The former president of Activision Blizzard! Are you fucking kidding me? Oh, and the Swedish... This is the fucking, This is the Candy Crush company. Criticisms? Used by extremist groups. Well, I'm not seeing furries and pedophiles, but I mean, most social media on the internet is going to have pedophiles.
In order to get myself out of the hole, in order to get myself out of homelessness.
Thankfully, they're not in our Discord, the Pond Discord.
This club is absolutely unlikely from where I was 15 years ago. This stuff isn't abstract for me. And what I'm about to say is really, I suppose, going to sound like an ad, and I kind of need to own that up front. It's not. Or it...
Market yourself, it's okay.
I suppose, for a type of behavior. And it's also, from my perspective, the most honest example that I have what this looks like, what I'm talking about today looks like in practice. Like, some of you might know that I run a venue called the Bill Murray, which is home of Angel Comedy, a club that I started in a pub.
Yes, it did. I 100% saw. I didn't miss it. But like I said, you're going to have most in every social media. You don't have to join. You can just engage with the stream. You can go on YouTube. You can convince the people who run YouTube that I should be able to react to Wired articles without them taking my entire fucking stream down.
In Angel, Islington in 2010 with somebody called Linus Lee, Catherine Vrana and Sarah Pierce. And it started out as a free community-funded comedy club, and as of 2026, it pays 50-plus comedians a week. And it was crowdfunded into its own venue by people who believed in the model. The Christakis Ripple. That's the Centola tipping point. A free comedy night above a pub that enough people showed up to that eventually became something that's a solid structure that employs dozens of people a week. It's not a corporation, it's the opposite. It's a room that exists because a community decided it should. So from May, I'm going to try an experiment. I'm going to be posting videos from the club. Like, not polished, not scripted, just showing and sharing community, which is what the science shows is the opposite of the Epstein economy. It's what community economics looks like in practice. I won't put them on this YouTube, I'll put them on my Patreon for free. But you can also donate on the...
Free? I love free things. Okay. I'm kind of really teed off by this shit, so we're gonna read what Teddy Kaczynski has to say about learned helplessness. When was this posted? Wow, 2022, or whenever he... This is actually might be one of his most recent publications. At the outset of my letter, October 12th, 2004, to Dr. Skribina, I made several statements based on my memory of the 1975 edition of Martin E.P. Seligman's book Helplessness. I subsequently had an opportunity to reread Seligman's book in 1992 edition, which appeared to be identical with the 1975 edition in the pages numbered with Arabic numerals, and I found that my statements about experiments with pigeons and rats were incorrect. What? Seligman? Oh, he wrote tons of stuff in prison. He wrote, like, letters. There's tons and tons of stuff to read from Ted Kaczynski. Like, he didn't just give up in prison. No, he, like, actively corresponded to people before he died of natural causes. Seligman, okay, I found that my other statements were adequately justified by what Seligman had actually written. What were his actual statements? The 1992 edition of Seligman's book contained an introduction that did not appear in the 1975 edition, and on several points I have to disagree with the new introduction. One of these points is worth discussing here. Seligman makes clear that a person acquiring resistance to depression through the experience of exercise and control. That a person acquires A person acquires resistance to depression through the experience of exercise and control. Not does like success have anything to do about it? It might. In his 1992 introduction, page XX, Seligman, is it Seligman or Seligman? Writes, the development of technology, mass production, and mass distribution has enabled large numbers of people who have significant measure of choice, and therefore personal control over their lives. Thus it may appear that in line with Seligman's theory, modern people ought to be highly resistant to depression. Yet, as Seligman writes on page XXXI, 33, of his 1992 introduction, we have experienced a tenfold increase in depression in the last 2 generations. Seligman tries to explain this primarily in terms of something he calls meaning, or attachment to something larger than you are, which is actually what the guy who made that nice clock video earlier was saying. You need a better meaning. This explanation is wildly speculative, and I find it implausible. An easier and more plausible explanation can be derived from 2 points that are implicit in Seligman's 1975 theory without being explicitly stated there. First, the utility of the experience of exercise and control depends upon the importance to the organism of the events controlled. Yes, okay, so the because Ted Kaczynski's whole thing is that, like, prosthetic activities, a modern man has been divorced from prosthetic activities that actually mean anything or are proximal to whether or not they live or die. So the events need to be controlled and important. Control in unimportant matters does little to build the organism's resistance to depression. Yep. Or making something that is important, but also seemingly bureaucratic, is also will make you vulnerable to depression, I think. This is suggested by what Seligman wrote on pages 61 and 62 of his book. Modern technology tends to give the individual control only in relatively unimportant matters, while life and death issues, for the most part, are kept under the control of larger organizations. Well, it's under the control of whether or not you have a job, whether or not you've been blacklisted for certain behaviors, like not reacting to a video properly, I guess. Second, in order to be effective in building resistance to depression, the exercise of control must require a serious effort. It must require pain. Much of modern technology serves to minimize the effort that we have to make in order to accomplish things, and this drastically reduces the benefit that we get from the experience of exercise and control, even in life and death matters. We no longer have to grow our own food, or forage it. I mean, this is for the worst, because not only is it disassociating us from the mechanisms of growth, life, ecology that we're constituted by, we no longer have any control or responsibility regarding it. We're just going to eat our rape meat. We just buy it in the supermarket. When threatened by physical danger, we merely dial 911. Oh my god, I saw a video on fucking X recently where, like, a guy went to the top of one of the, like, Mayan or Aztec sacrificial pyramids and, like, put down a bag and slowly took out a rifle and started assembling it. And tourists were just like loitering around, not really like wondering why the guy was taking a rifle and assembling it out of his bag. And then he started shooting. To make provisions for ourselves in case we get sick, all we have to do is keep up with our insurance payments and the system takes care of the rest. Yep. No, this is not the same book. This is a different book. He wrote letters and, oh, I guess maybe it is the same book. Technological Slavery, Volume 1, 4th edition. But this is part of his letter correspondences. Yeah, here we go. Exercise control must require serious effort. Yeah, as long as you just pay the things, you get to keep living. These are the reasons why the kind of control that the technological system gives us is of little use in building our resistance to depression. Oh, for the same reason that it's very hard to find the reason for hope. The same reason it's very hard to find the reason or the accumulation of your acts is the same reason that this disassociated disconnection from the effort required to continue living has created and fostered depression and anomie in the public. These are the reasons why the kind of control that the technological system gives us is of little use in building our resistance to depression. And notice that this explanation is practically identical to that provided by the concept of the power process. Industrial society and its future, I think. This is what we read on stream. Yeah. He's not referring to the idea of alienation. No. Alienation is a Marxist concept, and the idea of the Marxist concept is that people pour their soul, or like a fraction of their soul, into the products that they make, and those products then are shipped out or sort of replaced and supplemented slowly by the automation of labor, so that all you become is a consumer of products. And the Marxists are like, well, if we get rid of consumption, then everything will be great. Well, the Marxists actually don't want to get rid of consumption. They just want to get rid of exorbitant consumption. Alienation is... this is like the idea... I guess this has also been marketed when you see like videos of like factories, sweatshops in China, sweatshops in Vietnam, or like when you have meat, when vegans are like, oh, I'm gonna put a picture of Bessie on top of a steak to dissuade you from eating the meat because it personifies the meat again. You sort of reverse the alienation, reanimating it. I don't think it works. Because fundamentally the process is still the same thing. You just ignore it. Yeah. Marxists say that they're strict materialists, but the fact of the matter is the entire like framework relies on some sort of transcendental, or not only broader course of human progress, but the attitude of humanity towards pro-social behavior, stuff like that. That's why after like the 50s or so, essentially after like Marxism came to America and FDR did his version of Marxism, it was renovated with the idea of Freudism. Freudo-Marxism essentially supplemented the materialism that the Marxists relied on and the poverty of the transcendental analysis. They used Freudism. And then we get people who, like Deleuze and Guattari, who say, actually, Freud was a hack, he was a piece of shit, and he wanted to fuck his mother, and he was projecting on all of his patients because he's a piece of shit. And there's more to learn. Freudism. But the two of them are entirely conjoined. Like, it's okay for you to hear Fordism when I say Freudism. It's entirely fine. Like, the two are absolutely related. And I don't care to distinguish between the two today, I think. Early work on learned helplessness even don't respect his subsequent efforts. Why does he hate Seligman? Who knows? Books compiled, yep, Technological Slave. Yeah, look, I mean, there's tons and tons of stuff that he wrote. There's tons. Review, he wrote. Hyperspecialization, I mean, I agree. concerning strategy. Strategy for the destruction of society. Yes. Ooh, this might be a relevant one. Let's get rid of that. I think, I mean, we're going to wrap up stream. That's what I'm thinking. Ooh, no, hold up. We're copying this, because this one I also wanted to read. The system's neatest trick. Any neats in chat right now? Any unemployed hacks? Formatting. Here we go. Ted Kaczynski's political affiliation is a radical. What's Ted Kaczynski's position on talking birds on the internet? He probably would be fine with any use of technology to propagate his message. Probably. Ted Kaczynski's political affiliation is pretty exclusively just anti-technology, at the expense of woke, marginalized. He thinks all of those are sorts of cop-outs. He's sort of like uncompromising. Shut the fuck up, Thorns. Shut the fuck up. Shut up. Shut up. The start of the stream was great. He is a Luddite. That's correct. I think that's the appropriate response. He's a Luddite. His points, his extremism is a reservoir for us to analyze society. The Luddites have given us quite a bit of things. They occasionally have points, but not everybody's willing to like give up antibiotics. Not everybody's willing to give up vaccines. Not everybody's willing to give up TikTok. Like, I don't know, TikTok is kind of fun. I do enjoy that I can like talk to my grandmother face to face from across the world. It's like really nice. Is it not? I don't know who Adam Lanza is. Is being self-employed the same thing? You're gonna have to flesh that out. I don't even know. You would have to, I mean, we listened to Industrial Society and its Consequences, pretty much his magnum opus, on a former stream. That stream did not get copyright striked by Wired, which is awesome. So you can take a listen to that. Essentially, his reason for rejecting technology is that he believes that the externalization of logic is unnatural and it's repressing society, it's robbing us of freedom. And his analysis of the power structures is correct, but it's like the idea that it's unnatural or it can't be used for good in society. He's a little too autistic about the anti-technology thing. A little too autistic. And it is slightly probably because he got tortured by the US government in MK Ultra. He was doing a PhD in mathematics at Stanford, and then he willingly was recruited, or he willingly consented to enter into MK Ultra, where they experimented on him and degraded on his. Well, I mean, experimented is a little like heavy in terms of connotation. But they did not do nice things to him. They deprived him of sleep, abused him, degraded his work, and it really sort of sent him. People want to say, and he adamantly wants to fight against this idea that he's insane and that his ideas are out of this world, or that people want to dismiss Ted Kaczynski because he was trans, and that's being insane. I would say that he was sane. I think that his analysis of technology is a wealth that we can draw from to supplement our own analyses of the modern day. But his obsession with being anti-technology, I don't think is practical. It's not practical. I like FaceTime. I like FaceTiming my grandmother. Sorry, Ted Kaczynski. I guess I'm a fake fan. Yeah, it is a naturalistic fallacy. And we talked about this on the Green New Scam stream. The politicization of nature is part of the problem. We need to be able to get people involved in the environment, into the production of our food. We do need green cities. We do need people that are more in contact with how food is produced. I think like high schoolers and like elementary school kids should work on the farms. I do think that Mao his great leap forward by putting people in the cities into the farms. He was cooking there. He was onto something. Now his whole war on the birds, obviously I don't agree with that. We should let the birds do everything they want to do because the birds are perfect. The Luddites thought that industrial machinery would alienate workers from the product, and they were 100% correct. Yes, but it's not just that. The Luddites didn't believe that striking was feasible. They thought that violence was the answer. And I'm gonna... If I... Oh, excuse me. If I speak, I'm gonna be in trouble. If I speak, I'm gonna be in trouble. But that's sort of like why a lot of like modern labor movements are not going anywhere fast. All right, let's take a look. On privacy, overpopulation, and technology. Draft letter to the editor of the Saturday Review. So did he like post something in the... Did somebody post something in the Saturday Review and he didn't like it? I have read the articles on privacy in the April 17th issue, in the Saturday Review, and it seems to me that they all suffer from the same fault. They view... What is this? Oh, fuck. They view the blank of privacy. The blank of privacy. Fuck! Are you kidding me? I have to, like, dissect this? I have to translate this. My fucking god. Isolated problem rather than an inevitable outcome of the technological, technocratic society we live in. They seem to assume that the problem has been created by... organization, increased... There's no hope of permanently arresting the erosion of privacy unless we attack the root causes involved. We must take rigorous actions to reverse the growth of our population, and most important, we must bring scientific progress in many areas to a halt, ceasing to provide research funds. If this can be done, there will be a realistic possibility of stopping the increase in the complexity of our social organization. That actually makes necessary the blank. Why is he crossing these out? What is going on? This would have been such a good fucking thing. No. You are not more wealthy the more things that you consume. Because the products that you consume are bullshit that are not meant to be, like, passed on to your children. They're going to be accumulated in the ocean, ground up into microplastics. We've completely lost the plot when it comes to the production of materials that outlive us and are supposed to interface with multiple generations of humanity. And it's because most people are just ready to die. They expect humanity is gonna die. I'm not muted. They expect humanity is gonna collapse. You have me muted. All right, let's take a look. The system's neatest trick. The trick is so cute that if it had been consciously planned, one would admire it. What the system is not. Let's be making clear that the system is not. System is not George W. Bush and his advisors and appointees. This is after 9/11? Who knows? Who knows when this was published? Fuck. All right, let's see. It's not the cops who maltreat protesters. It's not the CEOs, the multinational corporations, and it's not the Frankensteins in the laboratories who criminally tinker with the genes of living things. Chat, that's me. That's me. All of these people are servants of the system, but in themselves they do not constitute the system. They do. In particular, the personal and individual values, attitudes, beliefs, and behavior of any of these people may be significantly in conflict with the needs of the system. True. Well, because the needs, beliefs, and behavior of the people are certainly in conflict with the needs of the system, which is exponential growth. And you're going to have to rewind on the VOD. Sorry, Quacky. Quack, quack, ducky, ducky. You can find me on YouTube at the Dispel Marketable Archive, and you're going to have to rewind because I have already forgotten the things that you wanted me to say. Oh, it was about the more wealthy we are, the more we consume. No, I don't think that's the case at all, because a lot of the things that we consume are things that are transient, but marketed as something that is robust and high quality. We no longer have relationships to products that are meant to outlive people. They're no longer meant to be heirlooms that we pass on to children. We can see this in technology. We can see this in furniture. We can see this in clothing. All of it. The quality has gotten worse and worse and worse because everybody's expected to keep up with the newest cycle. I've got no problem with disposable income. I've got absolutely no problem with disposable income. What were you saying? Disposable income? I'm never saying disposable income is bad. I think surplus value is fine. And it's okay to use that money on things that are like a waste of time. It's okay to use that on things that are not a waste of time. I just hope that the people who come to my stream, they're going to be able to gain the discretion to understand what their goals, their values are, what they want to do with the disposable income. This is what I'm doing with my disposable time. To illustrate with an example, the system requires respect for your property rights, yet CEOs, cops, scientists, and politicians sometimes steal. And also people from Whole Foods. Don't people with more disposable income end up spending more or consuming more? I don't know. Relative to the amount that they work, I'm not sure. Because you can get interest and call that income, when really, like, it's somebody else managing your money. And sure, you can use that interest to spend more, to consume more, to grab more luxury goods and items. But like, also the thing is, we need to distinguish between consumption and The French had a distinction. It's the usage of an object, like the burning up, the transformation of an object, rather than the creation and the passing around of an object. That distinction has been blurred when we just talk about consumption. Like, it's fine to consume food. It's fine to consume necessities like medicine, glasses, contact lenses, I guess. The problem arises when we start to consider permanent objects or objects that are tools, utilities, as something that are permanent when they're actually disposable. And we all know it's disposable, right? You're just gonna like buy a new fucking like piece of fashion. I will always highly recommend that people buy secondhand goods. I'm gonna be buying Seeing Like a State as a secondhand good. But I don't I feel like quack quack ducky ducky. I feel like the point that you're making is that the more goods there are in an economy, the more people there are in an economy, the better. And that's okay. It's a little tough for me to mount a reliable critique about that without bringing up technology and stuff like that, without sounding like an entire Luddite. But I don't think that it's necessarily indicative of a prosperous society. I agree, consuming more isn't necessarily a bad indicator for a society. Okay. I agree, it's not necessarily indicative, right? Things can go two ways. Anything is a poison in too many quantities or in too little of a quantity. What you're doing with this consumption, if you're consuming with other people, like friends and family, that's fine. That's great. The problem is if you are starting to delude yourself into thinking that the products you're buying are more permanent than they actually are, and the sort of realism broadly of production that is transient. It's cyclical almost. There's always going to be a new thing. Obsolescence is sort of the frame that I like to call it, where people understand that there's innovation going on all around them as they age, but they don't want to think about how they're aging. They don't want to think about the legacy that they're leaving to other people. And so they consume goods, they doom scroll is also consumption, I would say. Essentially just wasting time, and it robs them of their idea for agency. Is there anything else that I want to add to that? I'm not sure. I'm not really sure. Yeah, like a good or bad like indicator for society? No, I'm not really sure. I think this is why I'm not on board with the degrowth movement. Like, I understand their critiques of production and consumption. I share very similar critiques, but I don't know if degrowth is the phrase that you want to go with. Regrowth, sure, right? Cancer is growth. And we need and we use our rational technological capabilities to excise cancer from people. That's a good thing. I like that. That's removing growth from society so that we can cultivate growth in other areas down the line. The problem is, like, the modern, like, society is, it's very short-minded. Very, very short-minded on value. Long-term things, and maybe it's human, I don't know. Maybe it's been this sort of like corkscrew into hell where disposable objects become more proximal, technology enables us to produce more things, sloppier things get produced, so the things more proximal to us degrade more and more, and so we buy like shittier things more, while the high quality things get more and more expensive and more a signal of like true value. Like the kind of growth that I would want to see for consumption would be more trees. And it's like, oh, well, like, how do you consume trees? It's a long-term investment. This is like a 50-year, 100-year investment. Trees, they can provide fruit, acorns, nuts, shade, wood, all great stuff. It's about the quality. I want to see deflation. I'm going to be completely honest. I'm not a huge fan of like money market theory. The idea that we can stimulate economic activity by constantly pumping more and more money into the system by increasing the price of goods. It's also like inflation, deflation is also like, I think, a false premise. In much the same way that the separation between life and death is a false promise, death always comes with life, life always comes with death. Inflation is only inflation if wages don't keep up with it. This is where the squeeze happens. The most like important statistic in economics is what percentage of your income is going to rent, what percentage of your income is going to food, how much of that is getting stored away. Some of it should get pushed into, I guess I'm in Austrian school. I'm not really sure. A neo-Austrian school? I don't know. The ideology I want to shill is neolibertarian phalangism, but that's also like, that's kind of a bit. It's a bit. It's a Trojan horse, okay? I don't think many people are fans of Keynesianism. Or everyone understands, like, there's something wrong with capitalism. The Marxists are very much so like Ted Kaczynski. They're like, we need to get rid of it all because it's something other, there's something else. Oh, this neolibertarian phalangism shit again. Just you wait, it's going to be so big, I'm sure. Surely. I'm not an ANCAP. No, I don't think I could ever be an ANCAP. I think that I'm too much of a Christian to be an ANCAP, I think. I do think that there is right and wrong. I don't think that people should just be able to do whatever. Advertising what? You did not see t-shirts advertising neolibertarian phalangism. You did not. At least not my version. There's no fucking way you saw t-shirts advertising it. There's no fucking way. No, it's fake. These people are revisionists. These people are heretics. You only come here for the true neolibertarian phalangism. ANCAPs do believe in right and wrong, but the principle of the non-aggression principle is bullshit because they rely on an analysis of hold up. Unfortunately, Shanshan, I don't let Shang Yang. I don't let links get pasted in the chat. Super easy way for me to filter out like spam. You're gonna have to like describe the product to me, I guess. But the ANCAPs, they're retarded because they think that it's wrong to start violence. And I appreciate that, but it feels naive. It's incredibly idealistic. It's incredibly naive. It's a cycle of violence, I guess. And separating the tail from the mouth of the serpent, it's not practical. It's literally for internet LARPists, I think. Hold on, let's see. The system's greatest trick. We're continuing. To illustrate with an example, fuck engaging with my chat. I'm engaging with Ted Kaczynski, the dead man. I'm practicing necromancy here, chat. Huh? How about that? You're asking me questions? I'm practicing necromancy over here. There's no fucking way this is real. This is bullshit. This is bad. This looks like shit. I'll show you my version. When do I think aggression is justified? I don't know. I don't think I could give like a broad... I'm not sure I could give a broad justification for violence or aggression. Chat, what do you think of this? This is a real neolibertarian phalangism right here. Any Rob Noor enjoyers? This guy's such a fat, retarded piece of shit. Holy. Look at me in my nice suit and tie. I can put that back on if you guys want. No. But look at this. This is the flag for neolibertarian phalangism. By the way, no. I want to say it's not just neolibertarian phalangism, because phalangism is a localist movement. Phalangism is a Spanish variant of national syndicalism. You can't just like pick one thing up and move it somewhere else. We need the American version. Carlism with American characteristics. Is that what this is? Am I just doing Carlism? I don't know who Carl is. Is Carl a, like a fish? A Carl fish? Nozick. Who's Nozick? You can't tell me that, like, I'm wrong and then be like, oh, this guy actually just developed the same exact ideas as you. I'm looking at his invariance. I'll check this guy out. I've never heard of him. I might agree with him. Let's see. I don't know. Truth, a primary good. I don't think that... Truth is God. That's the primary good. It's God. It's Jesus. Or instead of communists, called their philosophy Carlism instead of Marxism. That would be very funny. Gnosticism? Gnosticism. That's all right. That's what we're going to go with. What's my idea? I'm showing you my idea right here. We're going to end voting for our boomers. I've had people tell me, like, maybe we should move it to 60. Maybe we should move it to 65. Maybe it should be a function of, like, the life expectancy of the lower K of the economy, the masses. But essentially... And this is honestly like the crux of my political, like all of this is just like a vapid signaling to other bullshit. This is the crux of my political argument. We should cap suffrage at a particular age because humans age. We should stop trying to live forever. We should, at a certain point in our lives, decide, yeah, I'm going to die. My time on Earth is transitory. I'm going to stop gooning and I'm going to need to foster the next generation, impart my wisdom on. The boomers are literally governing this country for the past 40 years, and what have they done? They've fucked it over. All the American presidents for the past 50 years have been born in the same decade. And what's the problem? What's the problem? They're not going to be the ones that deal with the consequences 50 years down the line. They're going to be dead. No, it's not socialism. This is not socialism. This is American neolibertarian phalangism, where we're taking away people's rights in order to better society. Because that's what society is all about. Working with each other, cooperating to figure out what needs to happen. And I think a lot of people will see the phalangism and the American, and they'll be like, oh, you're a Christian nationalist. And it's like, okay, I believe America is a nation. I believe that it should take care of me. It should take care of its population. I don't think we should have to import immigrants in order to sustain a population. Obviously, we should bring in new people from across the regions of the earth in order to revitalize or to provide competition for ideas. It is local, but also national. Why not do cognitive tests? No. Quack, quack, ducky, ducky. In all honesty, the reason I chose 50 was because 50 is the age that most women have completed or are starting to go through menopause. They're no longer the same sort of productive unit that they were when they were younger. That's the premise. You're no longer the heir of the nation. You are the guardian of the nation. So you shouldn't be making the decisions. And if you want it to be a solid nation, you should try and educate the young ones. You should try and foster values that you appreciate. Help the young ones understand the history of the nation. That's what's important. And obviously, like, I don't think it's fair to, like, restrict women who go through menopause because they're no longer productive units, and men somehow get exempt from it because they just never, or I guess, you know, they could pay a bunch of money to get transition surgeries in order to birth, but, like, I don't think that should be the case. Men should have their voting capped at the same exact age that women have their voting capped. Include a hormonal test? No. The idea is that 50 is just it is an arbitrary threshold, but it's a threshold that I think is important. It's a threshold that is founded in a genuine concern, and it's a threshold that is based in, it's an arbitrary threshold like most borders are. It's an arbitrary threshold like most governments, taxes, all of these sorts of things are, but it's important to talk about them and to decide whether or not they're working for the better of society. And I think having 60-year-olds, having 70-year-olds voting, by the way, these people are also the biggest and most susceptible voting bloc to AI, to fake news, to fraudulently developed video clips off of Twitter, off of Facebook, off of Meta. These people should not be voting. I'm so sorry. The other, like, really big thing, though, is bringing back hunting. The feast, the hunt, used to be something that brought people together. It also, I think, allows people to understand the cycle of life a little bit better. That's the big problem. That's the big problem with American politics. People think that they're going to live forever. They think that their products are going to live forever, and they don't think about, no, that's just not how it is. But they're like, what can we do about it? There's no coherent political platform to contest that. Approve your message? All right, hold on. I got to go to Twitch. What is it? Too much testosterone? Fuck off, Trent Head. Too little estrogen? Fuck off, Hag. I don't want to put... No. I don't want to put, like, boundaries based on those sorts of biological... That's a variety in life that I think is important to preserve. I think if we wanted to do, like, trans people in sports, like, if we wanted to do trans women in women's sports, we should, like, test their hormone levels. Because that is the direct inference on their physical capabilities. But, like, for voting, no, I don't really think so. I mean, chat, are you buying American neolibertarian phalangism? Can you, at the next Thanksgiving meal, tell your boomer parents, if they're still alive, that, yes, I love you, but, like, you're part of a broader problem in our society that wants to live forever in a way that is sapping the vitality of not only the earth, but also the young ones. Did they take down my YouTube stream again? No, they didn't. Hee. Cool. All right, let's continue with Ted Kaczynski. I think Ted Kaczynski would agree with me. I think Ted Kaczynski would say, yeah, we do need to get rid of the boomers. Okay, we don't need to get rid of the boomers, but, like... Okay, chat, here's also the really, like, big thing about American neolibertarian phalangism. The Holocaust has made people incredibly suspicious of death, any sort of death. It makes people, in combination with capitalism, it makes people want to try and live forever, even though they're clearly not the same person as they are. Their mental faculties degrade, we don't have 7-year-olds voting for the exact same reason we shouldn't have 70 and 80-year-olds voting and straining economic systems. But like allowing people, the idea of death has been so far pushed out of the zeitgeist. It's completely unacceptable rhetoric to even discuss. Like the idea that healthcare systems are under strain because there's so many old people, and all these old people are taking vitamins and supplements in order to live longer while their brain rots in their fucking skull, but they're still casting ballots. It's not okay. It can't. We gotta get rid of this. Nozick was very okay with people selling themselves into slavery, but only at the local level. Okay, I can get that. I can understand that. I mean, yes, I mean, Smug and I talked about this in the Cute Accelerationist video. Yeah, people should be allowed to sell themselves into slavery, because the truth of the matter is that power, wealth, responsibility, it's kind of stressful. It's like, we should not glorify power and control because it's dehumanizing. But at the same time, there's lots of people who just get sick of it. They can't find a happy medium. They just want to be told what to do. This is where you get bottoms. That's fine. But like, you should be able to enter and exit. And the really interesting thing is that indigenous American, Native American societies had slavery. They had raiding parties. And honestly, I don't think we should do raiding parties. Even if we go into a techno-feudal society, we should not do fucking raiding parties to grab slaves by coercion. They should be willingly entering into slavery. My principles for Christianity relate directly to my principles regarding consent and slavery. You're a slave to God. Give to God what is God's. Give to Caesar what is Caesar's. And it's okay to be a slave to God. But you can still like do things as a slave for God. I talked about total determinism versus, what's it called? Total like autonomy. I hold those two concepts simultaneously. Determinism belongs to God, autonomy belongs to the man and woman, and everything in between. People, dogs, everybody should be able to. Christianity should be seductive. People should want to go to Christianity because it's the best option. People should want to be a slave. People should want to manage other people's resources because that's what they want to do. That's what they like. Modern liberal democratic representation seems like a very, very bad idea, irrespective of any age. Okay, but you're gonna have, like, this is an opinion in the context of this particular stream that I'm going to agree with, but like, you need to add more to that. This is like a heavy topic. Saying modern liberal democratic representation is not working great, yeah, obviously. But the thing is, we need to find ways in order to make people responsive, make our representative responsive to what we want. Yeah, maybe it's time for a nap soon. I'm getting eepy. Chat, I'm getting eepy. Google shut down my stream. I wasted so much of my energy into answering their stupid fucking questions. Wired fucked me over. I might take a nap later. Although if I take a nap like if I take a nap in the evening, I'm like up at 2 a.m., 1 a.m. No, I'm not a reactionary. I'm not a neo-reactionary. We're principled here. We want to build something positive in a direction rather than just against something. Oh, okay. Don't become. Yes. All right. Quack squared. Ducky squared. I think we're on the same page. I think we're going to wrap up stream by reading the rest of this. The Systems Genius Trick from Ted Kaczynski. We might be done with Ted Kaczynski. I don't know. Maybe another stream will look into MK Ultra. It's cool. No, I don't believe it. There's only one king. Don't be anything close to theocratic monarchism. No. The idea of like neolibertarian phalangism is, yes, the movement is Christian, but the Christianity should be attractive. There should be alternatives to the Christianity. And people should freely choose to associate because it's just seductive. It's better to live your life knowing you got the big guy upstairs. You know who to talk to. And obviously there's only one king. It's Jesus Christ. To illustrate with an example, the system requires respect for property rights, yet CEOs, cops, scientists, and politicians sometimes steal. In speaking of stealing, we don't have to confine ourselves to actually lifting of physical objects. We can include all illegal means of acquiring property, such as cheating on income tax, accepting bribes, and other form of graft or corruption. Okay, but bribes are just like gifts. Income tax is lying. Graft or corruption is like an incredibly heavy term. Incredibly heavy term. Did you mention freedom of association? Then you're for the repealment of the Civil Rights Act. I actually don't know enough about... Also, there's multiple Civil Rights Act. You would have to tell me which one, because I don't look into it. I don't care. I'm an American. I only complain about my system rather than knowing anything about it. I mean, I'm for like the government ensuring equitable access, but like, I'll give it some thought. My knee-jerk reaction is, of course, to say no. I'm not against the Civil Rights Act. I'm a good law-abiding citizen that wants equal representation. Okay, hold on. If I'm against the Civil Rights Act, then I'm also completely fine with the government taking, like, doing death taxes. The Hoppian argument against civil rights is that it impedes people's freedom of association. I'm fine with impeding certain people's association according to the values that I believe in. When does it get overbearing? It's a tough one, and it's not something that I'm interested in analyzing now. Because I'm tired. Hold on, let me get a... Yep. Okay, but like, okay, the also thing about freedom of association that I think most libertarians don't like thinking about is the positive freedom. It takes money in order to freely associate. And that I do think should be relatively guaranteed to members of the society. It's fine for there to be a gay bar, but God forbid there's a straight white bar. It creates special protected class of people backed by the state. I think that, I mean, I'm fine with the state creating protected classes of people, not necessarily just legally, but also by the affordances that we give people based on merit. And I think the state should certainly be used to dissuade people who want somebody who is not straight and white going into a bar that's exclusively, quote unquote, for straight and white people. How does that local establishment enforce, quote unquote, being straight and white? It's probably through violence. It's probably through harassment. That I don't think is okay. That's not freedom of association. It's fine for there to be a gay bar. You can go to a gay bar. Gays will buy you drinks if you're straight. The fact that CEOs, cops, scientists, and politicians sometimes steal does not mean that stealing is part of the system. Capital S system. On the contrary, when a cop or politician steals something, he is rebelling against the system's requirement for respect for law and property. Rebelling or testing the boundaries? You would have supported the previous feminist movements getting rid of men-only spaces. No, not necessarily. It depends on the context of the men-only spaces. Like, I'm fine with female-only gyms. How that local private establishment defines female is fine. Yes, okay, but this is like most people. This is most people. Yes. Yes. When it's convenient to the values that I hold and the biases that I have, yeah. And I just hope that answering these questions, the content that I produce, you're able to read between the lines and understand whether or not the values that I express are contingent or correlate with the values that you hold and that you value. Yes, of course I don't believe in civil rights. Yes, I do think that we should censor quote unquote free speech. There is no free speech. There are restrictions on free speech. Calling something free speech is so libcucked. It's a signal. Obviously, there's these cases that we use to regulate society. And I hope that the vision that I have for society is one that you agree with, and it's one that can inspire you to take your own developments as well. It's trust. That's what we're doing. We're building community. Yes, of course it's convenient. Duh, I'm biting that fucking pill. Hoppians believe that black should have black-only cookouts and white should have white-only libraries. I think that's insane. Like, no, I think that's insane. Like, you can get invited to the cookout, but if it's like a private organization and they want it, but public places, no, absolutely not. They should be voluntarily, not state okay, I got it. I guess the thing was, to what extent would, what sort of private organizations would we allow to gatekeep? I mean, okay, but these are like the basic questions of like most philosophy. Like, to what extent are we gatekeeping? Is it according to the values? And it is something that we need to do on a case-by-case basis. We're going to need a public sphere. That public sphere should be regulated by a representative body of all the people inside the nation, with all the interests, the entire milieu. The representative should reflect the people, the wills of the people. They should voluntarily choose to associate. Yeah. Okay. Listen, okay, you're taking me down essentially like government, the foundations of government, the foundations of freedom, the foundations of ethics, the foundations of making choices, keeping the government responsible. And I hope, like, obviously, I'm going to be a hypocrite. I'm going to pick cases where it's convenient to the things that I want. But I hope the convenient cases that I pick out, and I'm going to bite that bullet every single fucking time. Yes, I'm a hypocrite. Yes, I'm going to choose a particular option when it's convenient to me, obviously. But like the liberals, I hate liberals who have this like conceit, like, oh no, I have no hypocrisy, I'm totally consistent. No, this isn't an edge case that like it's convenient for me to have this position. That's stupid. That's cucked. I want you to be able to, for yourself, analyze my opinions and see whether or not they agree with you. But you need to have like, instead of just asking me these sorts of questions, yeah, of course it's a slippery slope, but like, so what if it's a slippery slope? What are you gonna do? What's the threshold for your slippery slope? I think the right to discriminate and exclude, aside from being one of the bits of liberalism I like, is very important to maintain. Yes, that's what we do in the Pawn Discord. We certainly, obviously, we're going to discriminate and exclude. Like, I think some of the most retarded liberals will say ethnostates are bad because they exclude. No. They're bad because they reduce the variety of humanity, and we need the variety. Ashby's law of requisite variety means that we've got a certain amount of noise that arises from reality, from nature, and we need not a diversity but a variety of opinions and people from a variety of experiences in order to generate a variety of solutions and approaches and communities to it. You should be able to freely, like, choose who you want to associate to. You have free will. I mean, okay, but the state leasing out private property for you is sort of, yeah, how it goes. It's not your property. It's the state's property that's being leased out to you under the protection of the state. Because every single libertarian will say, okay, the state should at least supply policing and firefighting and like military at the very least. Yes, private cities can achieve ethnostates in voluntary, non-aggressive matters. I'm saying that's not good because there's a low variety. Yes, that's correct. Sheng Yang Gang, this is correct. Just because there's a variety of opinions doesn't mean all opinions are valid. But the thing is that we want a structure, a government structure that is able to adapt to the variety of opinions and allow for people to choose which ones they think are the better ones. This is also fair. This is entirely fair. There's so many reasons to dislike. There's so many reasons to dislike ethnostates, but like just because they exclude, that's doxing that you have no fucking analysis or reflection on your life. You've just never been challenged. If you say, I don't like ethnostates because they exclude, you've just never fucking reflected on society. You exclude things every day. I'm excluding shutting off stream, going outside, and going for a walk in the sunshine to produce some vitamin D. You can just choose not to associate with them. I mean, you should be able to form coalitions, stuff like that. We're getting like way too much into the like idealistic weeds and away from the practical considerations of a particular case. Have Western societies been improved by abandoning ethno-nationalist politics? When you say abandoning ethno-nationalist politics, that term is way too loaded. Ethnicity is way too much, like, we have boundaries between quote-unquote ethnicities. We can calculate to your haplotypes to what degree you belong to a particular ethnicity. But the fact of the matter is, we're all fucking mutts. We all descended from Adam and Eve, or whatever fucking apes, like the Marxists want to say. There's policies that you have in mind, Shang Yang Gang. Those are the ones that you need to actually bring up and say whether or not they've been benefiting society. Whether or not they match our values. Homogeneous societies often produce high-trust society. I see what you're getting at. Hold on. Let me cook. Let me cook. What makes a high-trust society? What makes a high-trust society? You see people that look like you, that think like you. You don't want to be challenged. That's what you're saying. I'm fine with a certain degree of homogeneity. I'm fine with heterogeneity. The important part is the variety. To meet occasions. To meet struggles, to meet challenges. And it's going to seem like some of these are a waste. Like generating variety is a waste. Because you can't have a truly homogeneous society. A homogeneous society is everyone is a clone of exactly the same person. The threshold you're trying to set is one of people who look like you, who got an eye color like you, who've got a hair type like you. You don't want to be challenged. And the challenge is, what's the distinction between you and other people? You can quantitate it, you can share ideas with it, you can exchange, but if the homogeneous society only has these people, how are you going to know who you are if you don't have a reflection? How do you keep homogeneity without paranoia? Yeah, I mean, somebody like might step out of the homogeneity, and how do you objectively measure like trust in the society? Oh, we've got too little trust. We need to prune the hedges and keep things a little bit more homogenous. These are just loaded liberal concepts that you're trying to like sideload. No. Excuse me. This is a long fucking message. We used to have a national origin quotas in immigration aimed at maintaining a specific ethnic character of the country, and it seems like our large influx of other groups followed the repeal of these policies, has produced an environment increasingly trending towards permanent ethno-tribal politics. The repeal of the ethno-tribalist politics has caused us to trend towards ethno-tribalist politics? Brother. Brother. That could be the case. But hold on. I don't think you got my point. I don't desire a homogenous society, at least not by superficial things like race, but with culture or at the very least ideology. Okay. I'm fine with a one-party state. Politics doesn't end with a one-party state. Because the threshold for being in the one-party state should be you're committed to the benefit of the collective. And the collective is something that has sort of trickled down, I guess, through the branching and the mores and folkways of history. Happenstance, by providence, essentially. So how do we know when something is wrong? Well, we've got God. Is God objective? Does every individual person have an objective understanding of what God wants for us? No, not really. There's going to be a lot of variety in what God wants for us. It requires aggression. What I mean is political factions coalescing around competing ethnic interest groups within the country. Oh, I see. But this competition, though, like, I'm fine with I'm fine with competition. I do think a certain amount of competition breeds innovation. There should be attractive alternatives. There should be freely associatable alternatives to groups, and those groups should be freely, okay, to a certain degree, willing and able to be able to distinguish who's able to join the group, who's not able to join the group. But again, this is getting like far too into like it's getting too far away from the pragmatics of politics, which is real, like very particular circumstances you would need to bring up. I say like very frequently, Twitch is the place that politics usually goes to die. No, we're doing politics right now. We're litigating definitions, we're litigating the values that are acceptable and not acceptable. Different ethnic groups competing to use state power to dole out privileges to themselves does not seem particularly appealing. Why? Again, you say that I don't particularly care about whatever ethnicity is, or however we're defining ethnicity. It's about the ideology, and then we go back to the ethnic groups, despite fully accepting that it's arbitrary. And that obviously, we're always going to have a bit of heterogeneity. The heterogeneity should preserve the freedom of people. It's a little arbitrary. You can objectively measure it. It's always going to be in the eye of the beholder, essentially. But when you say different ethnic groups competing, yeah, people pass between ethnic groups constantly. Like, hold on. Shang Yang Gang, I need you to take a look at Brazil. Are there different ethnic groups in Brazil? There's people from different origins in Brazil. There's colorism in Brazil, meaning some people are lighter than others. But some people with light hair have kinky hair. There's a variety of people there. There are different ethnic groups in Brazil, but not in the same extent that there is in America. There's a continuum. Everything has muddied together. I think that's okay. There's variety there. Why? Because the variety allows the different individuals in there to accept who they are in contrast to everybody else as a unity of mankind, as a unity connected to the ecology, their local ecology. And Brazil's politics are characterized by different ethnic groups competing to wield state power, to dole out privileges to themselves. I don't know, it sounds like any nation state this is going to happen. It's happening in China, it's happening in Russia. The problem is, how do we keep it representatively distributed in terms of power? Because the power is arbitrary. The privileges are arbitrary. Access to the privileges are arbitrary. This is, again, like, it's too much into sophistry, it's too much into pedantry. I understand the values that you're putting forward. And I understand, like, I might not be making I might not be making the best case for the things that I want to say. But I'm sure that you would agree with most of the principles that I have. And honestly, it just comes down to, like, the circumstances. Because, honestly, America's a pretty, like, great project. There are boundaries on society, and I think that's okay. It's okay to have boundaries. It's okay to repress certain things about society. This is why I'm not a libertarian. As long as the repression achieves the values and goals that I think are in line with Jesus Christ, I'm okay with it. Only pussies mute. America is the greatest project ever. America is the greatest project so far. And that's why we've got American neo-libertarian phalangism. That's right. That's exactly right. Okay. I don't know that it's the greatest project ever, but it certainly has fine points. And that's life. Yeah. You're gonna have... There's highs, there's lows, and the idea... The fundamental thing is that you've got a structure, you've got a framework that generates variety, and that's able to meet the values. Okay, but when you... Shang Yang gang. When you say it's the character of the people who built it, you're not saying ideology like you formerly said. You're referring to ethnicity. But, like, what was the character of the people who built it? It was Protestant, it was Protestant work ethic, it was Christians. What were those Christians fleeing? An inability to freely associate, an inability to choose their religion, an inability to choose for themselves. When did you mention ideology? I might be conflating another time. It's been 6 hours of me yapping. You're gonna have to give me a break, all right? I can't remember every message from every chatter. This chat I'm at right now, the perfect YouTube Twitch size in order to engage with your comments. Any more people, this is why you shouldn't like and subscribe, by the way. Any more people coming into the stream, this is why we should gatekeep likers and subscribers. Any more, I wouldn't be able to engage with your content like this because I would just forget. I would just pick out the most rage-baiting comments and I would just harp on that. God damn it. I would harp on that. The only common character among most Americans being outcasts. Yeah, but like the based on what you hold on. This is Pussy's Mute saying. I think that's correct. That is a great ascertainment of America. America is a nation of outcasts, and it's why we don't have these like awesome edits that like the European like national flanks can make. Like we've done really cool things since then. But the fundamental thing about being an American is freedom. It's being outcasts. It's being a little abrasive, a little brash, breaking boundaries, breaking thresholds, innovation, competition. That's what it is. No, it's not about ideology. I don't have ideology. Ideology is like a code that you get gatekeeped on. I'm a libertarian. Neo-libertarian phalangist. American neo-libertarian phalangist. That's the ideology. There's going to be a variety of ideas, and all of these ideas are going to come in and supplement. Chat, do I need to pull up the Authentic Phalangist article again? Where's the translate? Uh-oh. Where's my translate? Oh my god, is there no translate on the fucking... Anyways, basically, this is where I'm drawing a lot of the inspiration for the American neo-libertarian phalangism. Yes, we do benefit from incorporating outcasts, from incorporating the exterior. We need a certain amount of variety. Otherwise, we stagnate. If you want a homogenous society, you're going to experience stagnation. You want stability. I understand the desire for stability. I understand the desire for order. But the fact of the matter is, order is to God. And we're going to have to cope with the messy reality of life. And that's, I don't think this is like, you're not building a framework that I think is reliable. I'm sure there's going to be people who agree with you, and you're going to be able to like accumulate together. And I'm glad that you're here with us. Let me check chat because I've been yapping for too much. Not to say ideology doesn't matter. It does. Yeah. Can you lay the foundation for neo-libertarianism? Fuck you. I'm not doing that right now. But we can also see the same abstract ideology will produce radically different results with different leaders and different peoples. Yes, because ideology is fake. Like any attempt to enforce homogeneity, you're going to get heterogeneity. That's the fact of the matter. Life is characterized by heterogeneity, and we want to use the systems of government in order to generate homogeneity according to the values that we like. And some of us are going to have different values. That's okay. We should be able to come together, talk about it, and figure it out. That's right. Nobody is opposing heterogeneity totally or in all aspects. Yes, I understand. I completely understand. Nobody is opposing it totally because it is entirely up to just, it's a property of reality. It's messy. But like the things... But I also, hold on, quack, ducky, ducky. I was not expecting to argue with chat today. Thou shalt not steal, and taxation is theft. Yes, Christ has said, thou shalt not steal, but what did Christ do in the temple? He overturned the tables. What did Christ say? He said, give to Caesar what is Caesar's, give to God what is God's. Life is complicated, life is messy, and Shenyang gang, you're looking for a totalizing, orderly government, local community, an ability to exclude or include particular people based on private grounds. That's okay, but there is a public sphere. Not totalizing? Yeah, okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, you said like no one is opposing heterogeneity in totality or all respects. Yeah, not totalizing. That's right. Sorry. I'm kind of losing it. 6 hours. I need to practice my fucking like longevity for speaking, right? Very coherent at the very start of the stream. I used very few epithets. I didn't insert things like right to pad my count. Stealing can be a Christian value sometimes. Jesus was a criminal and he was killed for it. So yes. Less chair stream and more yapping. Oh my fucking god, fine, Thorns. Fine. It just takes practice. I understand. Okay, chat is berating me for doing chair stream. YouTube is berating me for doing chair stream. That's okay. It is important, hold on. Shang Yang Gang, it is important to keep America accountable to the values that it was founded on. But I don't know if you're a fan of like an originalist interpretation of the Constitution. I don't believe in an originalist conception of the Constitution because we only exist in the modern day. We can only assess if our values are congruent based on what we infer from the writings of our founders. It's an illusion. It's a delusion entirely to say we should base our laws on the original founding documents of a small government. No. What built this nation? It was the inclusion of women in the workforce. It was the inclusion of black people in the military. That's what allowed us to win World War II and take over literally the entire world. Are there consequences for these decisions? Are there consequences for bringing women into the workplace? Certainly. Should we talk about them? Certainly. Are there ways of working with it? Certainly. And the one that I really want to do. Some people say, "Oh, we should protect the shrimp. We should do this thing. We should cover Hassan or whatever." No, I want old people to stop voting. That's my bit. Jesus wouldn't be a criminal in a libertarian society. Yeah. Jesus, okay. I don't know, but I don't know, has there ever been like a truly libertarian society? Like I said, American libertarian phalangism, it's just signaling, it's bullshit. The real meat is the capping voting at 50. Yeah, it is just signaling. A truly libertarian society? I don't know if that's existed. I mean, it could have existed. I don't know if we've ever like experienced it. There's always going to be some gatekeeping in societies. You would still see it as too radical? I don't know. There was some shit that happened in Iceland a millennia ago. Oh, is that like is that the fucking in Iceland? Is this the like the Democratic Confederacy of like the Icelandic tribes or something? That what you're referring to? You think the original American Constitution was too radical? That's an interesting idea. Oh, okay. See, my chat is on the same wavelength. And by same wavelength, I mean you guys are different people that feels like they can understand and intuit the values that have been putting forward. I'm going to crush your head with a skull because I am a Luddite and I hate technology and I hate that you entered those messages into chat. And what are you going to do about it? Huh? Are you going to use an institution and a collective of individuals in order to prevent or to punish behaviors like me crushing your skull? Well, I still have the freedom to crush your skull in with a rock. But I'm not going to do it. Not only because there are consequences, because it's bad. Because I intrinsically believe that it's bad. I find the complete rejection of private ownership of government suspect. Okay, hold on. Hold on. It feels like... I'm looking at the semantics of what you have to say. I understand all of the words in this sentence. I'm trying to understand what you're bringing forward to the table here. Why you think it's important to bring this forward. And I think my response would be, because I can't directly describe what you're saying behind what you're not saying, is there is a continuum between private and public. There's no truly private environment. There's no truly public environment. Everything to a certain degree is connected. If you pluck at one thing in reality, you pluck at everything else. And yet, no justification for stealing in a theological way. Can I theologically justify stealing? I don't know. Because, like, it depends on what you're stealing, why you're stealing. Like, if you're stealing for hedonism, I think certainly that's a sin. If you're stealing to support yourself, I'm not sure that's a sin. I hope the Lord forgives you for it. Infringing on other people's property, infringing on the product of other people's labor, is that immoral? Is there a theological... I don't know. It just sounds messy. Okay, Shang Yang Gang, I feel like you're trolling. You gotta be. You gotta be. Like, is this an actual rage bait? Am I actually getting, like, I'm getting outclassed in terms of rage baiting? Yeah, fellow slaves got it. Yeah, whatever. I'll do my best. But, like, it depends on the circumstances. You're not trolling. Okay, thank God. I don't. I do want to be rage baited by chat. I don't want chat trolling. I'd want to take you guys seriously. Does that make sense? Okay. I'm not a heretic. I'm not a heretic. Are some of my ideas radical? Yes. A little bit. It would have made sense to crown Washington king, but he didn't want to be crowned king. What's your response to that, Shang Yang Gang? He, in the same vein as the Roman Republic, thought it would be virtuous to give up responsibility because power corrupts. How do we make power responsive to the needs of the people in a singular authority? Oh, it was an unfortunate thing that we didn't force him to be king. Wait, it's an unfortunate thing that we didn't force George Washington to be king against his will? What? Hold on. Am I actually tweaking? Am I actually tweaking out? I'm missing one of the entire, like, 10 commandments? Obviously, you should respect the 10 commandments. And if you violate them, and it happens frequently, I don't always respect my parents. I understand they're the ones that are responsible for giving me life. They're the ones who are the ones bringing me here. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not covet. Okay, yeah. I don't know, but like that's like the problem with that though is that it's like a semantics thing. What is it stealing? Obviously, it's stealing if you like grab somebody, put them on your horse, and run into the underworld to hold them for the next 6 months while the world freezes above. Obviously, it's stealing if like you go. It's about I guess like the threshold would be the alienation to labor. Like how alienated is the product from the people who made it would be the justification for whether or not it's stealing. Yeah. Not as fundamental as stealing. Yeah, it would be. I'm using stealing like in a colloquial sense. If you want to come at me for saying like that's not appropriate or the exceptions that you're carving out, and just because you have faith that Jesus Christ is gonna forgive people who steal, who ask for forgiveness for stealing, you're advocating for breaking the 10 Commandments. And I'm just gonna do some like Weasley semantic bullshit gaming to distinguish between products that are okay to steal because they're alienated versus products that are not okay to steal because they're proximal to the product of somebody's labor. Somebody worked hard for it and they should be able to distinguish what happens with it. What if stealing from Whole Foods, like in a system where millionaire class steals? Okay, but like Thorns, if your justification for stealing is other people steal from me, that's not okay. I think the analysis should be like how close you are. Because I think anybody who, if you were to press Hassan on who it's okay to steal with in particular circumstances, who it's okay to steal from, who it's not okay to quote unquote steal from, it would be like small business owners, bodegas, corner shops, small businesses. It's not okay to get a product from a business on Etsy and say, oh well, actually I didn't receive it, can you send me another one, and actually you did just receive it. There were some people talking about making him a king once the Constitution was being forged. There were people trying to convince George Washington to be a king. But he didn't want to. He didn't think it was in line with the principles. And the people who won, the majority opinion, maybe it wasn't necessarily the right one, but it's certainly, I think, in concordance with the values that I hold, which is the question of how do we hold the people who organize society and make society or represent us for the system. How do we make that responsive? I don't think that's in line with a monarchy. Like, if a monarch isn't doing well, what, the only solution is just killing the monarch? It's just murder? There's got to be an alternative, which is the benefit of democracy. Is democracy perfect? No, absolutely not. Publicly owned government tends to favor short-term and narrow interests, oscillating between entrenched oligarchs and strongman populists who rile up the general population. I'm the populist. I'm the strongman populist. I'm the strongman populist. Like, obvious. Okay, but like the thing is, publicly owned government is doing a lot of work. It's carrying a lot of weight. It's assuming that just because it's publicly owned, it's responsive to what people actually want, or that the government does what the public wants. No. The government becomes its own collective, it becomes its own entity with its own interests, preserving its continuation. It could be oligarchs, it could be populists, but it requires people. It needs something more than that. It needs something transcendental besides being quote-unquote publicly owned. It's too heavy of a term. It's generally a bad idea to get the general population riled up over things that they can neither understand nor control. I get that. But is it not okay to feel passionate about certain things? By the way, this is wrong. This is just like, this is wrong. You know who's richer than all the billionaires? It's the hedge funds. You know who's richer than states? It's the hedge funds. Are they richer than states? In terms of like the capacity to do violence? Some companies are. Some billionaires are. But certain other things, not necessarily. But this is the topic of the stream. Learned helplessness. It's not okay to get the general population riled up over things that they can not control. It's not okay to foster mass hysteria, but it's human. It's human to feel upset about things that they can't control. I would say that the media is an organization that is designed to keep you glued to it and to keep you anxious over things that can't control you. I would certainly endorse revisions to media. I would certainly endorse that most people choose to opt out of media because it is designed to get you upset. I would certainly endorse a different filter for media. Responsibility. For example, I think the policy that should be implemented by the White House is only news companies that are not publicly owned, but owned with representatives making executive decisions representing all levels of the news organization, the cameramen, the newscasters, the script writers, the researchers, the what's it called? The inspectors? What? No. The writers, I guess? Only these people should be given a press pass to the White House. And of course we can say, what is the king bad? And he concentrates power within himself, and he does all sorts of terrible things. I don't see how liberal democracies are any better in this regard. I mean, the reason that liberal democracies, at least currently the liberal democracy is not great, is the lag time between understanding if the population is feeling represented, if their interests align with their representor. It's the lag time between getting a response, holding them accountable. That's my opposition to monarchy, because monarchy is sort of the furthest extreme of this responsibility. this accountability. The only way to fix it is either death or abdication of the throne. I love democracy if the 51% of people voted to take my rights away. I want to take people's rights away. I want to vote. I don't want old people voting. Yes, I do want to take rights away. No, the state does not hold a monopoly on violence. The state holds a permissive monopoly on violence. Hold on. Shenyang. What's the point here? What's the point here? Am I supposed to question liberal democracy just because Hitler was able to come to power? No, that's why I'm a phalangist. Hello, my fucking god. No one should have the right to vote? No. I think the people who are the inheritors of the decisions should have the right to vote. Old people are not going to have to deal with the consequences of their decisions. Those are the people who should vote. Well, there are other institutions which can check the power of the king, aside from extremely absolute monarchies. Yeah, but those other institutions are like generally the oligarchy or the church. And neither are really taking the same tune as they used to. Would I be okay with like an AI? Hold on, actually I think this would be an interesting question. Shenyang, you're okay with the centralization of power into a particular entity. Are you okay with the centralization of power into an AI? Would you be okay with a centralized authority inside of an AI? Like as it is now, like Claude. I would favor corporate representation of concrete social groups. Okay, concrete social groups is doing heavy lifting. It's based on affinity. It's based on acceptance to the group. How would Claude rule? Based on its weights, of course. That's how. If you think democracy is what decides rights, then you'd be okay with legal rape. 10 people of the island, 9 of them vote to violate the other. Okay, but like, you say that. We all understand that the fundamental reality is that might makes right. And God gave us our rational capacities in order to determine where we should direct might to make right. How do we determine what is right? I think it's through a variety of opinions. That's how. That's my justification for democracy. Like, the democracy of an island legalizing rape, no, they're just gonna rape them. There's no fucking law. Like, 9 people going like, yeah, okay, we're gonna rape this guy. You're just doing violence. That's not a law. The law is like, okay, if these 9 people said, what happens if one of us 9 raped the other? What's gonna happen? How are we gonna make that happen? That's democracy. And it takes, and this is my also rejection of Ted Kaczynski, it does take a privileged class in order to understand, to manage it. It does take a certain, like, institution. Maybe it is nap time. Maybe I am EP. Doesn't my bed look comfortable? It looks like soft. I'm just surrounded by pillows. My entire room is pillows. It's the dream. I think all large political groups coalesce towards a situation where there's a center of authority. This is the unity of life theory. Okay, no, hold on. This can't be the extent of your analysis, though, right? I understand that there is a tendency for things to coalesce, to aggregate together. But there are also factors which tend things to disassemble, to fall into chaos. And we can use our rational planning to decide what's best for the continuation of humanity. This is why I'm not like a libertarian. I want humanity to have the technical capabilities to nuke like an asteroid in order to save it. Where there's a de facto center of authority, that de facto of that, okay, hold on. This coalescence towards a center of authority, I think is certainly a phenomenon, but that center of authority can shift and change. How does that center of authority gauge what's the appropriate response? That's just part of life. Democratic institutions may influence it. It's never truly under democratic control. Yeah, I know it's obviously never under truly democratic control. We are insanely limited, not just by the idealism that we're playing with while we discuss this, because we're a little divorced from pragmatics right now. There's no like true definition to a word. There's sort of an aggregate intensity of a true democratic institution. There's reforms, there's improvements, there's constantly going to be problems. This is, I don't know, I feel like you're looking for a communist utopianism. Okay, obviously it's not in line with the communist ideology. I reject the communist ideology. You probably reject the communist ideology. But this is the trend. You're looking for an idealism. No, this stream, we are utopian realists, which means we understand that we're in a fallen world until Christ comes back, and we need to deal with it. It's going to be tough. It's going to involve listening to each other. It's going to involve making coalitions. Those coalitions are going to involve some centralization of authority, some person making the ideas. But that center of authority could be a man and an object. It could be three people together. That's what authority is. Because authority in and of itself is a loaded term, right? All of these things are loaded terms, but it's in complement to other things that we give authority. A king is a king because he holds an orb and a mace. And everybody gives their taxes to him or whatever. Off with his head. It's never truly under democratic control. Yeah, I know, there's aggregates, there's intensities to life. This is saying that there's an exception to the rule, I feel like is exactly why I hate the Democrats. They're like, well, we're not authoritarians. Have you checked out this thing? We don't hate, but ignore all this other stuff. No, there's always going to be exceptions to the rule. You should bite those exceptions and try and understand where, I guess, the best possible outcome would be. And we can't just leave it up to the market. That's the big thing. We can't just leave it up to the market. There are mechanisms of quantifying value that are outside the market. There has to be some transcendental value. Christ would be real happy with me advocating for stealing when he's back. But you probably believe you can repent out of anything. Well, I mean, we'll see, right? We'll see. I have faith. I'm delusional. I'm insane. I'm retarded. I know. This is a half as brutal of a analysis that liberals have of me. It's not an argument if the single minority can stop it. It's an argument if what would occur would be morally correct or not. Okay, but like morally correct, if the 9 people say it's morally correct to commit violence against somebody in order to exclude them, sure. But like rape isn't excluding somebody. There's a pretty big difference, I think, between excluding somebody from the island of 10 people because you joined a coalition of 9 people and then raping. That raped person still exists on the island. By utopian, I mean your reference to it's never truly under democratic control. One of the appeals of hereditary monarchy is it shifts the center of authority to a person who has vested personal interest in the health of the regime as a whole, in the long term, even beyond their own lifespan. But these monarchies were dependent on a relationship to God. These monarchies were dependent on the idea that they had a truer personal connection to God. And as Christians, we know that's not the case. We know that, okay, well, Catholics understand that you need some amount of institutional pruning in order to determine who has a connection to God. I understand that. Why would that be utopian? You're looking for an ideal, the most stable system, the most personal interested system with the least amount of variety. I think that's unstable and actually unutopian. We know as Christians that's not the case because we all can read the Word of God. We all can develop a relationship with Christ through prayer, through community, through speaking to God, through listening to God, through cultivating community. I think historically the kings would disagree that they were like envoys of God, but like everybody around them thought that they were an envoy of God. They were given legitimacy not just because of the material the wealth that they had. They weren't always even the wealthiest ones in the kingdom with the most power, the most agency. They were seen to be avatars of God. And you're right, this isn't exactly new to history. Certainly the ancient period was also characterized by this, not exclusively for Christians. This was the Middle East, the god kings of Egypt, the pharaohs, the Lebanese, the Ashurians, the Babylonians, the Marduk. Yeah. I understand that they're sort of the visage of a transcendental God. They're the authority. They're the interstitia between humanity, the subjects of civilization and progress. But I don't think that's the ideal. I'm falling into my own shit. I said you're the utopian. I'm the utopian realist, though. I think there have been successful implementations of monarchism that are responsive to the needs of the people, that are responsive to the variety of people inside their nation, certainly. And it has been a very stable system for humanity. Is it one that aligns with Christian values most? I'm not sure. Because there's only one king. And who is that? Who's that one king? There are no other kings. It's just Jesus. It's just Jesus. No, I understand see, this is what I'm saying. It's a stable system for humanity. This is the utopianism, I feel like. Actually, there is an argument for monarchies being marginally better from a libertarian perspective. Essentially, it's comparing a king to an owner and a politician to a tenant of the country. A landlord has much more incentive to take care of the land in the long run than the tenant does. Okay. A king and an owner. I think the main difference between a king and a landlord is the proximity for their senses to understanding the health of their land. And that you can hold the pervasive and exclusive rights to interpreting what is the health of the land, what needs to be done for the health of the land. My problem with this Hoppian argumentation is that I don't think a king is close enough to the land in order to gauge it. It's actually just too much information. Like a landlord, somebody who has an acre of land, you can travel that in a day. The trees will look the same in the morning. You can check on the beehives, you can check on the hogs, you can check on the horses, you can see the leaves changing. It's all well within, because we're limited by our human brain. I don't think that a king has the necessary analysis or like measurement of their kingdom in order to accurately understand their kingdom. The word landlord literally comes from lordships. Yeah, I understand. Obviously, like, I mean, sovereignty. This is the idea of sovereignty, which is my Twitter handle. It's dispel marketable sovereignty. Thank you for following. Free Palestine, fuck Israel. Thank you so much for following. I wish fucking I wish I got sounds on Streamlabs. I have Streamlabs open. It's not sending me a notification. It's also not showing on the fucking screen. This is actually like far more. Hold on, I'm the landlord of this stream, and I'm noticing that there's a problem with my domain. And the problem with my domain is that I'm getting a notification that somebody subscribed or has followed on Twitch. I'm not hearing that. I'm also not seeing any like notification shown on the stream. Why? Is this different than a king? It's because I'm more proximal to it, and it's within my rational capabilities to assess the situation for myself, to monitor it, and to find the appropriate resolution. I think a king is just too high up for one person to fully appreciate. I understand the centralization. Fuck you, Mog. You know what successful hereditary monarchy has been in the modern world? Denmark has been pretty successful. I think Norway still has one. The UK, I would not say has been successful. Another successful monarchy. The Mongolian? I don't know. Do the Spanish still have a monarchy? Oh, they're ceremonial monarchies. You're not considering them. Okay, then what would you say is like Liechtenstein is your argument. Okay, but this, hold on, saying that Liechtenstein is the most successful monarchy supports my analysis of the distinction between the landlord and the monarch. There's a certain threshold for a quote-unquote accurate summary of the land, to be a custodian of the land, of the people, that is exceeded if your kingdom is too big. Liechtenstein is one of the smallest nations in the world. So what I'm seeing is a correlation between a successful monarchy and a small fiefdom. If you have a confederacy or a coalition of small fiefdoms, and you're the king of these fiefdoms, you're not, I wouldn't say you're a king in the same sense. You're a lord of people, not a lord of lands. You're essentially like an HR manager. That's what feudalism is. And I don't know, like, was feudalism stable? Individual feudal states were not stable. As a system, sure, fine. It worked for a long, long time. The Middle East is the best governed states. There tends to be monarchies, irrespective of size. I don't know enough about the Middle Eastern monarchies. Because it feels like to me that the Middle Eastern monarchies right now are just oil companies that were set up by America and handed over to a family, a hereditary line. I wouldn't consider that the same as like a landlord. And I will always say that I think this is also relatively common sense, that a landlord is abusive when they don't know what's going on in their property. They're saying, well, I don't understand why you haven't given me enough money for this shit. Why aren't you generating enough shit? It's because you aren't there. You need to actively be managing it. You need to have a connection to the land directly. The existence of dukes and princely states, yeah. But these princely states, I'm going to have the same analysis. I think that they're going to be less stable the greater the magnitude of the land is, they're going to be less stable and less accurate to surmising what is going on inside their fiefdom, the more information that needs to be collected. And so what do? You have to start managing people instead. Because I feel like this monarch... Actually, I feel like what I'm learning from the monarchists in chat right now is that there's a correlation between stable monarchies in the modern day, between stable monarchies and small fiefdoms. The larger the fiefdom, the more unstable it gets, because the more competing interests there are, but also the more information, the more the map and the territory start to separate. Chat, are you familiar with the map is not the territory aphorism? I don't see why this issue of not having detailed knowledge for everything going on would be any different for a president or whatever. That's a good point. That is absolutely a good point. And the thing is that you can cycle out and take the aggregate of the people who do have that detailed, quote unquote, accurate knowledge of the territory to decide who is going to be their HR representative, essentially. Oh, you're hopping? Okay, got it. My apologies. I was wrong for calling you a monarchist. How about that, Mog? Eat shit, stupid bitch. I'm not vindictive. I'm stable. This would be a cool article. Hold on, this is the meat of the article. Let's read this, and then we'll wrap up our time together today, all right? I think the people often have a terrible picture of what the large-scale political picture looks like. I agree. Yeah, I 100% agree. But is that necessarily their fault, or is that because we've developed an infrastructure which incentivizes people to feel like they need to be informed constantly on global events that they have no control over? They're not recognizing it's making them anxious. It's negative for their well-being. But the same thing is that you're going to have a variety of people. Some people are going to be able to look beyond their immediate surroundings. Some people are going to remain grounded and connected. Just like there's a range of the monarchy, I guess bureaucracy. The bureaucratic bloat of monarchy would be where you have a small fiefdom. These small fiefdoms come together, and then you just start to become an HR manager. You're going to have people connected. You're going to have people disconnected, and the connection is going to change. The instruments for understanding a reality, I think, needs to be snappy. That's my big problem with like representatives in the American government who sit for 6 years. They don't seek re-election, and then they vote opposite to the party. What the party wants. Obviously, we should get rid of parties generally. I mean, the other like problem with democracy is like the pass-fail nature of legislation. Holy fuck to spell. Now you're using liberal logic. Crime statistics don't mean anything. People commit crime because of the system. Hold on. I'm not saying people have no autonomy. But, like, you have to give me that, yes, people are constituted by the environment they're around. If I was born poor, I'm more likely to do certain things. Doesn't mean that it's okay for me to do it. Doesn't mean we can't develop policies to prevent it. But you have to give me this. We absolutely are constituted by the system. And the system is not just law. It's not just injustices, because injustices are natural. We just need to use our rational faculties collectively to try and figure out the best way forward for as many, I guess not as many people as possible. I hate fucking utilitarianism. You're more likely to do certain things if you're born poor, but that higher likelihood does not necessarily mean being poor is what is causal there. Yes, understand. You pick at one thing in reality, you pick at everything else. 100%. But like, I don't want people coming at me being like, oh, like you're doing like the 70s like liberal thing, like everything, nobody's at fault for anything, we should just forgive everybody for everything else, we shouldn't exclude people. No, certainly we should have to give me, people are constituted by their system. Midwits voting for a system that violate property rights I'm evil. I am evil. I am sinful. Hello. Hold on, let me get my suit on. Oh, there you go. That's actually pretty good. I am evil. Fuck you, Mog. Fuck you, Quack Quack. I am evil. What are you gonna do about it, huh? I'm fully biting that bullet. Midwits voting for a system that violates property rights? Yes, it is evil. I'm willing to commit evil in order to preserve values that Christ has given us. What are you gonna do about it, huh? Are you going to say that I'm as bad as Hitler? Come on. Come on. Be real. Be real. We must use the power of friendship to fix this? No, the power of coalition, the power of collaboration. Representation itself is not necessarily something I'm opposed to. Yeah, obviously, because the king is the representation of the people, the land, obviously. But I think the problem is more so the myth of popular sovereignty. Okay, but like, we don't have sovereignty anymore. That's gone. We don't have mass democracy. A mass democracy, we do gatekeep democracy. We should gatekeep democracy to the people who are responsive to it. Who are going to be responsive for it. All right, hold on. This has actually been a great chat. Because you guys have been like challenging me, probing my values. I appreciate y'all. Maybe I'll berate you guys more later. Preserve values like thou shalt not steal. You're doing such a good job. Thank you. Appreciate it. Would you vote for me? Be honest. Be honest. Obviously, libertarians, monarchists don't believe in voting, but it is a privilege that is still accessible to you. Would you vote for me in office? Thou shalt not steal. There's other values that I want to preserve. No, the king is the representative of the people. Oh, the king is not the representative of the people. No, the king is certainly the representative. Okay, not in the representative democracy sense. It's not the representative of the people. But he's representing a greater idea, like a body of politics. Maybe this is just the consequences of like depoliticization. Thank you, Thorns. The bar is in fucking hell. Thank you so much. The bar is in hell. Why couldn't you? It would have been a compliment if you would have said, I'd vote for you over Marco Rubio. Are you fucking kidding me? I know, sovereignty is legitimated from above and not below. Okay, it is legitimated for below. We talked about this. It's materially, the king is wealthy. There could be wealthier people in the kingdom, but supplemented with that legitimacy is the divine on earth conception. Yes. 100%. Let's take a look at the systems neatest trick. Because my voice is actually starting to go. Like, I'm starting to get like a sore throat. For the sake of its own efficiency and security, the system needs to bring about deep and radical social changes to match the changed conditions resulting from technological progress. The frustration of life under the circumstances... Well, I'm not even engaging with the text. I'm just reading it out loud. For the sake of its own efficiency and security, the system needs to bring about deep and radical social changes to match the changed conditions resulting from technological progress. Yes, this is true. And this is what he believes. But he believes that the deep radical social changes is complete destruction of technology. The frustration of life under the circumstances posed by the system leads to rebellious... This is Marxism! This right here is just Marxism! The alienation of the working class are going to be so great. They're going to feel so exploited. They're going to have no choice but to rebel. Rebellious impulses are co-opted by the system in the service of social changes. It requires activist rebels against the old, outmoded values that are no longer of use to the system, and in favor of the new values of the systems that need to accept. Okay, so what? It's just like the ship of Theseus system? In this way, the rebellious impulses, which otherwise might have been dangerous to the system, are given an outlet that is not only harmless to the system, but useful to it. Well, it transforms the system. The system is irrevocably changed. Mr. Teddy, Mr. Kaczynski. Much of the public resentment resulting from the imposition of social change is drawn away from the system and its institutions and is directed instead at the radicals who spearhead the social changes. This is true. Or at the radicals who who fail, I guess, for the social changes that are not fully accepted into the system. Okay, there's a filter to the system. That's what he's saying. And the rebellious spirit is used to support the system. I don't know, it feels like Ted Kaczynski is just like an accelerationist, like an accelerationist realist. Why, yes, I use the Bible selectively to push any agenda I want. What do you mean the church already did that in the past to justify slavery? I literally justified slavery this stream. You can go back in the VOD. It happens. Maybe you won't go back on the VOD on YouTube because that's gone. Honestly, I think what I'm probably going to do with the rest of my time for today is I'm going to go back through the VOD that got taken down. I might add commentary so that Wired doesn't fucking blast my ass. And you guys can go back to see the other things that we had to say. This will be on Twitch. You can see the VOD on Twitch. I thought we had a great discussion, start a stream. It's a shame I got nuked by the Indians at Amazon. It's a shame Twitch chat actually rage baited me for once and challenged me. It's crazy. It's a shame. I hated it. I hated every second of being challenged. You guys are the worst. Genuinely the fucking worst. I'm kidding. I enjoyed having you guys around. We're gonna move on. I'm done gooning. Accept that Christianity is inherently libertarian. Yeah. Certain sects of it. A certain variety. Oh, a certain variety is certainly libertarian. I'm sure. No, I want to do other things with myself today. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. I hope you guys go on to consider how much you hated all the slimy bullshit responses that I gave you. All the bullets, the egregious evil bullets that I bit. How little I care. How evil I am. Yep, that's me. That's the Dispel Marketable stream. And you can find me almost every Saturday here on Twitch and on YouTube. Maybe on Kick soon. Chat. I need to accept Carlism with American characteristics. Shenyang gang, I'm gonna look into it. I'm gonna take a look. I love Carl. Carl! That's commie. Wait, what's that fucking llama meme? Whatever. I am starting to feel my brains leak out of my skull. My throat is starting to hurt. This has been a great stream. I'm not rating Erudite. Go fuck yourself, Thorns. I hope you stick a big rose up your ass, and I hope it scrapes your intestines out on the way out. You can justify the existence of the state without taxes. You can have your state enforcing traditional values, but with the voluntary funds instead of the extortion we call taxes. I'm fine with extortion. I love stealing. By the way, like literally one of the most annoying, I think, discussions people can have, and we had a little bit of discussion at the start of the stream with the neoliberal himself, Nicholas Decker, about taxes. I got rage baited into fucking talking about taxes. It's not gonna happen again. I'm done. You're trying to extort a discussion about taxes out of me, and it's against my values to talk about it, and so I'm going to authoritarianly just end the stream. But on YouTube, I need to actually press the damn button.